Hey everybody, it's Wayne back at you with an options premium update, getting you caught up on all the cash flow I've been able to bring in this past year. Now we'll start with the goal, and for 2025 I was hoping to make $52,000, considerably less if you're comparing that to what I made in 2024, which was just over $84,000. So why choose a more conservative number? It really just comes down to the president. I was unsure as to how the markets would react to his policies. And truth be told, if you remember just a few months ago in April, when the markets were really seeing a significant sell-off, I really thought that I wouldn't even be able to make $52,000. It's crazy to think that just a few months later, the market continues to see the highest of highs. And so we've seen the lowest of lows this year. We've seen the highest of highs, and that does equal elevated implied volatility. And if you're an options trader like myself, elevated implied volatility means more premium, which means you're going to be able to make more money. All right, so before I give you what that year-to-date total is, I want to go back to where things for me began, and that was 2022. You guys know my journey. I found Brad Finn's content on YouTube, and it started with just selling a covered call, and eventually I also began selling puts. If we go from 2022 to now 2025, I got to tell you, the focus for me has been to exclusively sell cash secured puts, and the numbers certainly tell that story. Take a look here in 2024. I sold a total of 241 covered calls. I sold far more cash secured puts, 631. If we look at the year-to-date numbers for 2025, I have only sold 67 covered calls. So I remind you of my strategy because I personally am making more money selling cash secured puts. I no longer like the idea that if I own a quality stock, why would I cap my upside? Why would I sell covered calls? And if that stock experiences a breakout, right, it goes to the moon, well, I've just obviously capped my upside. So I am no longer focusing in on covered calls, rather cash secured puts. And I got to tell you, we're off to a pretty good start. Let's show you where we're at. The year-to-date total is 54,314, which means this video not only gives you an update, but we also have to revise that goal because I've already reached over 52,000, and it only took me 31 weeks to get there. So I really did not think that I was going to reach the 52,000. Again, I go back to April of this year when the markets were just in the toilet, and I had to aggressively manage and roll my positions several months, even as far out as 2026. But now that the market has seen an unbelievable comeback, I've been able to buy to close a lot of those contracts that I had to roll down and out. So let's go ahead and break down the top 3 stock tickers in which I have made the most money this year. Number 3 is going to be CRWV, which is CoreWeave. And I'm here to tell you, I'm breaking rule number 1 when it comes to selling puts, and that is you should be willing to embrace accepting assignment and owning 100 shares of that stock. And I'm here to tell you, I have no desire to own any shares of CRWV. And so I got to be careful. I got to make sure that I'm not selling too aggressive of a contract because I do not want to risk assignment. And so far, when I first began selling puts against CRWV in June, things were looking pretty good. I was able to close out early for profit. However, in the last 5 weeks or so, I've had to aggressively manage a few contracts as the share price of CoreWeave continues to plummet. Again, it's another reminder as to why I'm glad that I don't own CRWV. I'm glad that I'm not willing this stock, meaning I'm willing to take assignment and then turn around and sell covered calls. So you're going to want to go ahead and follow along to see whether or not I'm able to strategically sell puts against CoreWeave, all the while avoiding any assignment. Okay, the number 2 stock in which I've made the most premium in 2025 goes to NVIDIA. And it's really interesting because with NVIDIA, you can see here I have earned $5,244, yet I haven't sold any contracts against NVIDIA since late May of this year. The share price has rebounded spectacularly since April. And that's a problem because I typically like to sell puts when you are sort of in a downward trend. And so as NVIDIA continues to go up to the right, I really haven't found a way to make meaningful premium. But again, considering that I have not sold a put against NVIDIA since May, yet it continues to be the second position in which I've owned the most premium this year. Really tells you how heavily traded NVIDIA is. And the number one stock in which I have earned the most premium in 2025 is MSTR, which is MicroStrategy Incorporated. Once again, I'm here to tell you, I do not want to own 100 shares of MSTR. And so I have been selling very conservative puts when it comes to MSTR. And I have been willing to lock in far less premium than I normally would, let's say, with a position like NVIDIA. And oftentimes I'm only locking in, as little as 30 to 60%. And it's really worked out. You can see here I have made $11,417. And I've only had to roll contracts, we'll say, maybe 5 times or less this year. For the most part, if we look at March all the way down to as recently as this last contract, I've almost always been able to buy to close early. Never have taken an assignment, and so that's a win in my book. I can't believe it, right? 11,000 that I have made, and I've never owned one share of this particular stock. So there you have it, $54,314. That is the year-to-date total that I have made in premium. That puts my weekly average at $1,700. Now, if we just look at the current weekly average of that $1,752, I am on track to make $91,000. I'm here to tell you, I don't think I'm gonna make $91,000. Now, last year, I wanna show you the last 4 weeks of 2024. Now, this is concluding the election, and the markets, it was just an unbelievable amount of volatility. Just in the last month of 2024, I made over $13,000 in premium. I'm here to tell you, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that I'm going to make over $13,000 in 1 month. And so right now, things are looking pretty good. We're more than halfway through the year, but I am going to set a more conservative goal. It's not going to be as conservative as to when the year began. But if we look at 2024, I made $84,000. Currently, I'm on track to make $91,000. So I'm going to go ahead and set my new goal to $88,000. I think that's a perfect medium as to what I made last year, as to what I'm currently on track to make, but I don't want that added pressure. I think 88,000 would be a fantastic number, and I think I can get there. So do me a favor, if you like the update, I of course want to hear from you. How much premium have you made this year, and what type of options contracts are you dealing with? Are you buying? Are you selling? Are you running iron condors or variations? Throw it out there in the comments. I'd love to hear what your year-to-date total is, and we'll see you on the next one.